Hey folks, thanks again for joining our Monday Mindshare, and good to have Dan back in the studio. How you doing, bud?
Very good, thank you, Layden. I see you're nicely ensconced in the snow there. Is it actually snowing?
Wow.
Really
no,
snowing.
but I head to Canada later this week, and it will definitely be snowing. I'm like trying to surround me with what it's going to be like.
Yeah. But, you're just getting acclimated, ready for Canada.
Exactly, and obviously hot down there in the southern hemisphere. I see t-shirts is probably what you can actually wear around the place. It's not just in the studio, right?
Yeah, well, it was either that shirtless or a singlet, and I thought, you know,
maybe rubbing it in.
No one needs to see me shirtless on a Monday morning. So, yeah, but it is hot. It's nice and hot, it's been very humid. So, yeah, I just can't drink enough at the moment. I'm like,
right.
What was it? I did, especially because we got the sauna here. One day, last week, I did a Zwift session in the morning on my own, and then I did a treadmill run off the bike. And then I had to do another Zwift session for Endure.IQ in the evening. And then Kate was like, do you want to go into the sauna? And I was like, I just can't. I have no fluid left.
Well, I see you jumping in the ice bucket. So I imagine it's hard even keeping that cold these days.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I mean, it's good before bed as well. You just have to get the duration right, because if you go too long, you're too cold in bed, and then you wake up really hot when you're kind of thawed out, and you put the covers over you and you wake up too hot. So
we're talking about hot results and hot environments. I mean, what do you think of Maui and Hayden's result at Xterra?
Yeah, I mean, I said to like I said in my community, it's so good to actually, get a real world champion. An actual overall elite world champion is quite something very, very special for SFuels, I think. And it couldn't happen to a better person after what is just an incredible year of successes.
Right.
I mean,
extraordinary year.
Yeah.
And good to see him landed back on your home soil there. So I think he's still in quarantine, but it won't be long that he's out and about, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Lewis Ryan to get his butt back in gear and see him take on some Xterra again. I thought he was going to be our first Xterra world champion, but not to be.
Not to be. Well, anyway,
maybe next year we can get a 1-2.
Well, by the way, I hear Hayden's thinking of the Turanga Half, and as is Matt Kerr, and I think you might be thinking about it. So it'll be great having the Three Musketeers down there.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, actually. I was actually messaging Hayden the other day because I was also trying to get his appetite for doing a relay. Because at the Turanga Half, there's a big relay race. It's one of the biggest relay races in the country. So I was thinking we could get Lewis to do the swim. I could have done the bike, and then Hayden could have done the run, and then we'd have cleaned. Well, maybe we'd have cleaned up.
You should do. Yeah. Well, talking about Matt, 8:37 in Bustleton for the fall. I think that's his best time. Came in 5th overall, climbing into the pros. I was just thinking back to 2018, bud. Your run time at 2:51 in Kona. I think Matt had some struggles in the latter part of the run, but he's putting some good times on the board.
Yeah, I think he's actually done 8:28 though.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah, he did 8:28 in Taupo last year, I believe. I think that's his best time. But yeah, I mean 5th overall, amazing result, and it looked like a very hard day because the times just across the board were not fast for that course.
Right.
And that's one of the fastest course. I think Alistair Brownlee's gone 7:47 on that course. So it's sort of something like that. So it's not. It's a pretty fast course. It's one of those courses that you go to do a fast time, but it didn't seem like that was one of those days. But yeah, and I hate to say it to you, Matt, but if you're thinking Bustleton's hot, wait till you get onto the Big Island, and then you're going to feel the heat. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I saw they actually took Kristen Blumenfeld's time, the PTO, off the fastest time list this week.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, because of the swim speed.
Thank goodness. I had a call with Greg Bennett last week, and we were chatting about this, and we both were under the impression it's like, is the swim not counting anymore? Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, Jan van Berkel, who I coach, he went, he did the 3rd fastest ever Ironman time in Thun when he won the Ironman Switzerland. But of course, it wasn't counted because the swim was 500 short. But it's the same concept, right? I don't think it can be. I mean, I'm so pleased that decision was made, because it's it's totally justified, right? It'll be like doing a downhill, then doing the swim and then having the wind behind you all the way on the bike. It just,
Yeah, Son and I did Tennessee last year, and it was in Nashville, and the river there, it was flowing so fast that they were losing people past the finish chute of the swim finish because they were just kept going. So anyway, hey, what's happening in the Plews labs, and new papers coming out and hitting the journals?
Yeah, we've had quite a few new papers. Well, I say a few. We've had two in the last 2 weeks, which has been good. We had one published in the Journal of Sensors, which was with it was a collaboration with Marco Altini, who's from HRV Training.
Yeah.
And we did a massive data pull of basically what stresses on HRV, and looking at HRV and resting heart rate, and what basically causes some big changes. So we looked at things like alcohol intake, training. For females, we looked at menstrual cycle, and things like this to have the effects of HRV and that compared to resting heart rate. So that was good. To give the Coles notes of that, it seems that HRV is a much more sensitive measure than resting heart rate. So from training perspective, HRV is generally better. But if you're seeing changes in resting heart rate, substantial changes in resting heart rate from one day to the next, it's probably a bigger alarm bell, So if you're seeing like a real increase in resting heart rate, you're probably going to be getting sick, or you probably need to take a rest or something. Yeah. And also it showed that it's 9 million data points in this paper, by the way. So it's not a small amount of data points.
Yeah.
And we also showed that typically low intensity exercise is increasing your HRV, high intensity exercise is lowering your HRV, which goes again to show why that balance is that, you have to think about it, that the low intensity is banking that vagal modulation. So then you can actually hit it hard with your high intensity. And if you get that balance wrong, you're going to be leading into a world of, potentially overtraining and overcooking yourself. And then the other paper
I'm waiting for my Whoop 4 still to arrive. It's quite a delay there, but anyway, I got my 3 running here, but I need my 4 coming.
I heard there's a bit of a backlog in that, but I've actually switched it up, because I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, you got the Oura Ring?
This is the Generation 3 Oura Ring now. So
cool.
You see, I've still got the tan mark from my Whoop on there. But then and then the other paper we had published just last week was in the Journal of Sports Medicine with my PhD student Jeff Rothschild, that looked at AMPK activation. And so AMPK is adenosine monophosphate activated protein, which is it's a cellular signal that is heightened during cellular stress, like during exercise. And we looked at what attributes and what can actually increase or decrease that in terms of glycogen availability, low glycogen, intensity of exercise. And it's a really good paper. Bearing in mind that there's loads of different things that affect training adaptation. This is just one potential thing to look at. So it's not like this is the be all and end all, but it still can inform some decisions around carbohydrate manipulation. And basically the cold notes of that one was that if the intensity is high enough, it doesn't really matter what you eat. You can just eat anything, and it's going to be AMPK will be the same. And the reason being is because in the model, the things that had the biggest impact was things like lactate levels and kind of the acidosis that's associated with very high intensity and that cellular stress. It's really, really upregulating AMPK. But what came out was that starting glycogen didn't really matter. It was more the ending glycogen that was the most important. And people say, well, therefore, of course, starting glycogen matters. But yeah, it does. And no, it doesn't. Because if you're doing whatever your starting glycogen is, it doesn't actually matter. But if you're doing a 1-hour ride versus a 2-hour ride, and the ending glycogen is the same, it's the ending point that's the absolute key with that. So things
again, this is relative to AMPK outcomes. I mean, obviously, if you looked at insulin and fat ox, that could be a different. I mean, some of your other studies is a different story, right?
Yeah, it could be a different story. And it is a different story. it's funny you mentioned that, because the paper that we're actually working on at the moment, we're using the exact same models. And I've already shared a little bit of this data with you. We're using those exact same models with AMPK, but we're looking at RER, so actual fat oxidation. And I think that is going to be a really good paper that's going to have some great practical applications. And yeah, you're dead right. And to a point, early fat oxidation is having an effect, but after 2 hours or so, you can probably
burn everything.
You're burning everything. Exactly.
Right.
So but what we came out with is that if you do want to activate AMPK, and you're doing more of those like mid-range clamped exercises like Ironman 70.3, if you're doing those a little bit more glycogen depleted, you probably are going to upregulate your AMPK, so you will get a little bit more bang for your buck with those training sessions.
Good. So how's talking training sessions? How's things yourself? You're lighting up for some early 2022 race plans?
Yeah, I haven't really got anything penciled in fully yet, but I'm still training. Like I've upped my training a little bit, so I have been doing close to 20 hours a week, which is pretty reasonable, and my data's looking reasonable. So yeah, we'll see. I'm ready to pounce, put it that way.
That's good. That's good. And talking, so it's a good lead in for what we want to talk about today on the Mindshare, which is specifically around transitioning. I mean, in our part of the world, Dan, obviously it's, winter and starting to get closer to preseason and people thinking about, getting back into shape at a high level construct for yourself and for the folks that you coach, the athletes that you coach. What's a preseason guidance high level built up on? Like, what are you thinking most about?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. There's kind of like preseason, like off season, I guess. And then there's the actual, when you get back into training properly and you're trying to think about starting your season again. In the off season, I typically like to think that it's really important that you take a little bit, like at least 2 weeks where you're not doing any swim, bike and run. Bless me. Sorry, excuse me. You're not doing any swim, bike and running. You're actually trying to give yourself a bit of a motivational boost, and you're giving yourself a mental break. I think that's really important. Right. So when I'm coaching my athletes, we'll typically do 2 weeks where I say, okay, no swim, bike and run for 2 weeks. You can do anything else you want. And it can be like mountain biking. I know that's not strictly the same, but it's a bit different, right? So mountain biking, hiking, trail running, just some different stuff like racket-based sports for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks of kind of unstructured training where you say, okay, you're going to do three 30-minute runs, 3 1-hour bikes, 3 2K swims in the week, do them whenever you want. And it's kind of up to them to kind of just put them in when they want. And I find that that's a really good way to kind of get people ready to start training again, because the most important thing when it comes to the off season, the main purpose is that you're trying to make sure that your athletes really want to get back into training. If an athlete's coming to me and I say, okay, let's get into training, and they're not feeling it, then they need more time. You need to make sure they have more time. It's so important that you want to be dying to get back into training and really motivated. That's the most important thing. Okay. And then when we start back training, obviously, like injury risk is very high at that point. Like the real doing too little training and doing too much training is, it's kind of that U-shaped relationship. So you've got to take a gradual build up. And generally what we'll do is pretty much all low intensity training with one short VO2 max session bike on the week, not running, because running incurs a bit more injury risk. And we'd probably do that for like 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. And then once that's done, we'll do a VO2 max block on the bike. And then that kind of just gets everything, we build up the V-lactate, we build up your higher intensity. And once you build up because the good thing about VO2 max is they can manipulate them so well, and they cross so many different physiological adaptations. You've got high neuromuscular component, a high VO2 and aerobic component, a high anaerobic component. And because of that, everything is then much more easy. You've got that to push when you go into like more of a specific block, whether it's a strength endurance block or a threshold block. And that's typically the kind of approach that we'd take.
Got it. Well, good. When folks The reason I wanted to kind of have Dan to lead with that is we've been working with Endure.IQ now for, what is it, Dan? I think this will be our 4th year, I think. And we've decided to put together a preseason program between Dan's educational offerings and services and SFuels products, and bring all that together into a 3-month subscription model that allows athletes to basically start up as they get closer to their season and transition into that. So Dan, there's 6 pieces overall that we've put together on this. The LDT101 is the first piece, and then we have the webinar you and I have done on metabolic flexibility. Then we have your Endure.IQ training squad sessions on Zwift, which are just awesome, and your Endure.IQ community access to answer all the questions, and then obviously the products, which I'll talk about soon from SFuels. But LDT 101, why don't you just high level talk through? I know some of the folks out there certainly have done this, but there's a ton more who haven't. Why don't you just give a high level overview of what it's all about?
Yeah, so I mean, LDT 101 came out of the necessity to build something from too many questions after winning Kona in 2018. And it's pretty much getting people to be able to become fat adapted and actually use it effectively in racing and in training. And it cuts out a lot of the misconceptions around what training on a low carbohydrate diet actually is. You know, the idea that you have to be in ketosis and you have to eat olive oil and avocados in your bike bottle. You know, we kind of get away, we do away with that, and we build a very structured process where we say, okay, you want to get into a keto adaptive state, you want to build your fat metabolism, and then you want to kind of find your sweet spot of carbohydrate, which is all around training carbohydrate manipulation, and then also how to use carbohydrates during racing and training. So it's the actual low carb. It's a low carb course for athletes. It's not, it's designed specifically for athletes, and it's tried and tested because it's fortunately, you don't have to go through the years and years of making mistakes. It's all there for you. And it's, now we've had like 800 people do that course. Awesome. And those 800 people have all had positive things to say about it. And I think it's made a big difference to many people.
It's made a bunch of difference to a bunch of our athletes too. And we really appreciate it, Dan. There's this, is it 7 modules, Dan, in the course?
Yeah. So there's 7 modules. So, we start off with a bit of the why, we kind of explain as to all about fat oxidation, why it's important for specifically long distance triathlon. We talk about some of the rules around eating, about where you want to have your protein, your fat content, some of the foods you can and cannot eat. We talk about making the transition, and then we kind of go into the training and racing and some recovery aspects. And also we've got a specific module on females as well. So, which was run by Dr. Mickey Williden, who covers off the female module, which is also really important. So yeah, the 7 modules all up, and it just basically takes you right through from beginning to end. And the great thing is that we have a Facebook community, which is part of the offer that we've got in hand right now, and that you can ask questions to me and to anyone, and also people who have done the course, because we have a lot of people who did the course a long time ago and have still chosen to be part of the community. So 9 times out of 10, people will ask questions, and someone who's done the course and been doing it for a while will give a really, really great answer, and that's really powerful in itself.
And just for everyone's benefit, this is just one of, I think, 4 or 5 courses now that Dan has on offer. But this is, if you will, this was the first, and I guess the starter kit, if you will, for folks transitioning in. And you've built it out since then. Dan and I conducted a webinar maybe 6 months ago, and we recorded that, and it's all about metabolic flexibility. We used a case study of Dan's and actually Matt Kerr and some of his fat oxidation data to show what can happen as you begin to make that shift, and some of the lab data that underwrites the performances that like athletes like Dan and Matt are having. So that's also part of this program. Dan, the Endure.IQ squad sessions on Zwift, they're becoming a hit. There's a lot of interaction. As much as it's a training session, there's a ton of interaction also on those. Do you want to make any comment on that?
Yeah, well, as someone said to me the other day, the Endure.IQ training squad sessions are the most fun you can have with your clothes on. So there you go. You have to get, and like, I know that Aaron said to me, we had 100, he was disappointed that we had 125 people at the weekend. So we're trying to hit 190. We're trying to push 200, 190 is our best. So
right.
Yeah, and these are just like group training rides, and they're a real hoot because you can ask questions and we all have a bit of banter, and many people have some great training questions, some great nutrition questions, and you exercise, you flex the mind before the body, so to speak, and it's really good. So
well, the time moves so fast, when you're on there training. I mean, typically this particular session, it has been more a long, slow distance session, and it lends itself to having the dialogue. And 200, we might need a few more coaches to help cater for all the questions that are coming.
Yeah. It's a bit early in the morning for me, though.
Anyway. Yeah. And then the community access, this is obviously one-on-one, well, I shouldn't say one-on-one, is it? It's really multiple people live chat with you. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, so community access to the education community is it's on Facebook. We have a live webinar every single week, and where people can submit questions either before, and I will answer them in the video, or people can submit questions and be there live themselves. We try and put it at a time when it suits most people, which is, I think it's 7:30 New Zealand time, so it hits Europe and it hits the US if you can make it. But if you can't make it, you can just put a question in and you can watch the video back. So it's and it's a really effective and popular way to get some questions answered. But like I said, for most people, there's so many great experts in that community now who have done the course and been doing it for a long time, is that it's not always me that needs to answer those questions. 9 times out of 10, I'll read a question and go to answer it, and the person's answered it in exactly the same way as I would answer it anyway. So I just give it a like, and then there you go. So
yeah, no, we appreciate being involved in that and supporting where we can in some of the questions too. So folks, that's on the Endure.IQ side of the program. On the SFuels side of the program, obviously we provide a number of products, including the key products for training, which is our Train product, our Life bars, and also our recent primed caffeine product. And these are all supporting a low-carb, high-fat training approach. And then as we get into racing, and this is what Dan covers in the course-ware course, is how do you modulate between what we're doing in training and what we're doing in high-intensity sessions and in racing. And then we also provide a number of products with respect to everyday low-carb lifestyle. And this is products that support transforming what was typically a high carb meal, a snack, a drink, or a shake, or what have you. How do you convert that into a more low carb, high fat format? We provide also our recent products for breakfast, which is our Keto 3 products. And then we have a number of printed material collateral that just helps on the usage guides of our SFuels range and our product blueprints. So all of that comes together in the program. We're going to be launching that in the week ahead. I think, Dan, if you look at it normally, it's probably about $500+ of value. And I think with your support and our support, we're coming together, folks, to deliver this at $84 a month for 3 months. So you can do the math and just see how good a deal it is. And like I said, it's coming out this coming week. So, Dan, any final comments you would add to the program?
Yeah, I have a couple actually. Number one is that in LDT101, I give examples of my eating days, a lot of what I eat, and a lot of it includes SFuels products, of course. And one of the comments that we had in the past was we had a period where when the course was out, we didn't have the bars available. I don't even remember there was that kind of lag. And one of the main complaints was, how do I get hold of these bars? So this is answering everyone's problem. So you're gonna, not only do you have the course, you have the actual ability to follow some real good eating days and manipulation of when you're eating products. But another thing that we didn't mention was, of course, this does include, so we've got the Endure.IQ community, the education community, but we've also got the training squad. And the training squad is housed in today's plan. It has a number of different training plans and workouts that you can do. But what we've also included as part of this is within the course, we have a cold keto phase and a sweet spots phase, which are these kind of periods of adaptation. So we've included the training that you need to do during that cold keto phase, because we recommend that you reduce your training load. We recommend that you include one session of high intensity in the week to keep your anaerobic metabolism stimulated. So that's included within the squad. So if it's a full package. So if you're doing the course and you're going through that cold keto and you're wondering what training to do, all you need to do is drag in this plan, follow the plan, follow the course, use your SFuels, and you're going to be a fat burning machine before you know it.
Yeah, it's a great, I mean, that today's plan and your content over the top of that, it's just so easy to follow that day by day. You just don't have to think about it. Just look at the program, follow the calendar, and guide you through it. So it's awesome, Dan.
And it all goes into your phone as well. So
yeah,
easy.
Phone, PC, and Mac. That's right. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that's going to come out this week. We'll make sure we shoot that out on the SFuels EDM, and I'm sure Dan will be shooting that out. We'll send that out on social also, so you'll hear more about it. And you can subscribe up on the SFuels site, and then we'll give you the codes to access all of Dan's great material. So with that, Bud, thanks for joining us again. I appreciate walking us through all that and giving us a day in the life of Mr. Plews these days. Have a Merry Christmas if we don't see you between now and then.
Yeah, I surely will, and you too. And have you got any races planned? What's on the?
Well, we certainly. I have a half marathon in February just to warm up. I've checked into 70.3 in Hawaii in June, and we'll see. I think I've qualified for the nationals here in the US and Olympic distance, and that'll be back at Wisconsin. So we'll see how that materializes.
Yeah, wow.
We live in strange days, so I'll be happy just to see Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Take it easy. Goodbye. All right. Nice job.